Welcome back, guys. This is Gaming with Austin. S1E43 of the Utopian Community Series. I'm gonna start Season 2 in Q1 of 2019. This is on. Let's get it started in here. Stuff like that. Oops. And in the meantime, let's talk about some tech updates. AMD Athlon processors with the Zen architecture will be have been released today, with the ATI Radeon Vega 3 graphics card on the die. Yes, ATI Radeon Vega R3. No, Vega 3. The Ryzen 7 has desktop processor has Vega 7. No, 11. The Ryzen 5. Ryzen 5. Mobile Ryzen 7s have Vega 10. Let's talk about the name reveal for most likely name reveal for the next iPhone. It'll be called the iPhone XS Max. It's gonna feature a 6.5-inch display. The iPad Pro, just like the iPhone XS Max, it's gonna have next iPad Pro. It's gonna have razor-thin bezels. Because phones nowadays are starting to have razor-thin bezels, along with laptops. How's a Gigabyte able to pack a number pad and bezels so small for a 15-inch laptop? Secret is making the keyboard a little smaller. That is the secret right there. That's the secret to cramming a number pad in a razor-thin bezel laptop. Either making the keyboard smaller, or at least making the number pad a little smaller. Because you'll see, with the number pads on the Asus laptops, the Dell Inspirons, and the Lenovo IdeaPads, the number pads, they're very narrow. What HP did, instead of narrowing the number pad, they made the entire keyboard a little smaller. Instead. Because as laptop bezels get thinner, it'll be harder to pack a number pad inside. LGgram solved the problem with a 3-column wide number pad. 3-key wide number pad. Instead of a 4-key wide, like what you'll see on most laptops. I wonder if they might start putting AMD Athlon. With the AMD Athlon processors, that would mean that we could build gaming rigs for even cheaper. Seriously. I'm so serious. That means you could build a gaming rig for even cheaper than you would with a Pentium. The Athlon would be like that of the performance of an AMD Athlon is like between Pentium and Celeron. When it goes to performance. But the RX 550 has performance like that of a GT 1030. The 560, 580, it is possible, the GTX 1060, with the RTX 2070 and 2080, there's going to be designs for laptops too. That would mean ray tracing on a notebook. The ray tracing will make games a lot better, which means really good graphics. Graphics would get a whole lot better. Which means that we'll see more details. And eventually, it'll be near impossible to distinguish video games from reality. It'd be near impossible to do that. And eventually, video games that'll come out, video games 20 years from now, they're gonna be more demanding compared to today. Will overwhelm today's CPUs and GPUs. Video games 20 years from now, they require at least, probably more than 12 cores. Move over, piggy. Much better. There's some crazy news. Burt Reynolds has passed away, which is pretty sad. He was a mustachioed man. It's pretty sad to lose an actor. He was 82 years old. This is pretty sad. To lose someone like him. This is really sad. But you know, the average lifespan of a human being, it's slowly rising. Fortunately, it's still growing around the world. One of the factors that affect life expectancy is child mortality. It's one of the factors behind the average life expectancy. If we lower the child mortality rate, life expectancy is expected to skyrocket. eventually, we're gonna have people living to be like 100. About 300 years from now, that'd be the average lifespan in the developed world. That'd actually be the average lifespan of the developed world. Yes, this includes America, Canada, much of Europe, Japan, Korea, the Republic of China, probably mainland China, if they get people to stop smoking. If they get people to stop smoking. Because tobacco is one of the leading, and obesity are both the leading causes of preventable death. Preventable causes of death. But eventually, as our lifespan increases, our demand for resources will increase too. Especially food, as you need it to survive. Without food, you die. There is something called carrying capacity. Which means that, eventually, we're going to need to reduce the population size. Or maybe slow down on the amount of kids we're having. Whether it be through government policies, education, or tougher immigration laws. Something has to be done to prevent overpopulation from happening. Because look at what's going to happen to our population in like 100 years. It's going to be around 10 billion. Yes, that's really huge. That's a really large amount of people. With 10 billion people, feeding that many people will be really hard. That machines would have to take over to do the work for us. Unless we get enough farmers and encourage a vegan diet. That'd be great for all of us. If we all went vegan. It'd be great if we all went vegan. That means no more killing animals for food. It would be better for society if we went vegan. But you know, problem is some people don't like vegans at all. Especially Gordon Ramsay, who likes to lash out at people's dishes on Twitter. It's actually pretty funny when he lashes out. The vegetarian dishes, he tends to lash them out at those the most. Explaining why he loves meat. For me, I am a vegetarian. I'm proud of it. You could save all the animals by going vegetarian. If everybody went vegetarian, there'd be no more killing animals. Millions of animals would be saved if we all went vegan. Millions would be saved. If we fought for equality, millions of people would be saved around the world from extreme debt. Because here's the problem in modern day society. lot of people that are in debt, they're gonna die with a shit ton of debt. This is a fact of life in America. We're seeing the consequence of capitalism now. Millions going into debt. The debt problem is only gonna get worse. It's only gonna get worse. Collectively. As eventually the entire globe will go into debt. Inevitably. Even the rich people will start going broke too. Seeing billions of dollars go into debt. What if the top 1% started paying off everybody's debt? That'd be pretty nice. But some of the top 1% are pretty greedy. Which is a pretty big problem. Greed. Move over, chicken. Greed is one of the 7 deadly sins, along with pride, gluttony, envy, greed, lust. I can't remember the other 2. I need to refer to Dead Rising 3. But I want to learn more of the 7 deadly sins. It's not nice to be greedy. It's not very nice. For some people, it may be good for them, but it's not good for everybody else. It's not fair. An example of greed is when Hitler invaded Australia, then Poland, and probably Russia in World War II. That's an example of greed. Another example of greed is refusing to pay your workers a living wage, no matter how hard they bust their ass. No matter how hard they bust their ass. That is an example of modern day greed. A fictional example of greed? Look at the dictators in science fiction stories like The Hunger Games or Star Wars. The dictators are really greedy. That is an example of greed. Like taking food away from people and their wealth away from them as punishment and stripping them of their job to make sure they don't get that money back. That is an example of greed. Causing terror among population is greed with power. It's greed with power. That is greed with power. An example of power greed, Osama bin Laden, Kim Jong-un, Adolf Hitler. One thing they all have in common is that they're really greedy. They're all fascist. Fascism is an ideology that is based on greed, hatred, brutality, violence, and oppression. We need to abolish capitalism, too, because that leads to inequality Not only among humans, but also animals too. Not just among humans, but animals too. I thought I saw water flowing over there. Sometimes I get confused. Sort of. That it's okay for us to be confused every once in a while. An example of modern day greed, Big Pharma uses their greed to keep marijuana illegal. They keep it illegal for their own profits. Because if marijuana gets legal, they fear that they would collapse if marijuana gets legalized. I'm in support of legalizing marijuana. One thing we need to do is abolish capitalism. Abolish fascism. Bring freedom to the world. Liberty. Equality. Income equality. Where men and women get paid the same amount of money. Blacks, whites, Arabs, Jews, they all get paid the same amount. Where animals that are used for the circus would be retired to a sanctuary. They'd be retired to a sanctuary. Instead of performing with the circus. Because circuses treat animals like shit. SeaWorld treats whales, dolphins, and other sea creatures as commodities, used for entertainment. I agree with Peter that animals are not to be used for entertainment. Don't go if you're in Spain, don't ever go to a bullfighting ring. Don't ever go to a bullfighting ring if you're in Spain. Because what you're really seeing in a bullfighting ring is extreme violence against the bull. Naturally, bulls are pretty peaceful animals. They deserve to be left alone. Just like every other animal. Cows on dairy farms. The dairy cows, when milk production starts running low, they're sexually assaulted a lot. This is pretty sad. And first order of business when they assault the cow is they dig their hand up the cow's butt. Sometimes shit comes out. Feces comes out. It'd feel like a meat cigar. I was referring to that jackass stunt where Knoxville inseminated a cow. Then they ram a tube up their hoo-ha. Yikes. Then they inject the semen. Sorry about that. Not trying to offend anyone. Sorry about that. Into the dairy cow's vagina. When the cow gives birth, the calf is snatched away from them, sent off to a veal farm. It's traumatizing to both the baby and the calf and the mother. This is pretty sad. This is something the dairy industry does not want you to see. This is really abusive. Animal abuse like that must stop. If I was to inseminate cows in my dairy farm, I'd wait till they have their period first. Then I would do that. when I see blood coming out of their vagina, when they have their period, that'd be the right time to inseminate them, if you're a dairy farmer. If they're not going through their period, it's not a good idea to inseminate them. They do it through, yes, they do it through artificial insemination. Forcing sperm into cattle who are not going through their periods is rape. They do it through something called a rape rack. Yikes. With egg farms, large-scale egg farms, hens are cramped into cages. Some of them don't even survive. A couple of months. Which results in other hens cannibalizing on their carcass. This is pretty sad. If I was to be a farmer, I'd be growing crops. That's about it. If I was to be an animal farmer, I wouldn't go for intensive animal farming. I'd go for literal, truly free-range farming. I'd compare factory farms to prison camps. Just like what Gary Yourofsky mentioned. Factory farms are prison camps for animals. Conditions in there, I might think about doing an investigation in the future. See what really goes on. To find the truth. If the abuse really does happen, I'll be wearing a hidden camera. Disguised as a farm worker. I've disguised myself as a farm worker so they don't know about who I am. So I could trick them. I'll do it so I could trick them. The abuse, it's pretty sad to see stuff like that happen. I don't want abuse like that to happen to humans either. This is pretty sad. Not only that, it's really abusive. It's best to leave meat off your plate. I'm building up those cobblestone poles. So I could start building up, because I'm going to build taller. Eventually, vertical farm would start taking shape. What's wrong with wool? Shearers are paid by volume, not by the hour, which encourages them to be careless with the sheep. This is pretty sad. Life for a sheep exploited for wool. If you want to fight capitalism, one thing you should do is ditch wool, ditch fur, ditch dairy and eggs. Go vegan. If you're taking a trip to Spain, don't watch a bullfighting show, because that's just abusive. It's plain up, straight up wrong. Two, three, four, five. Animals deserve equality too, not just people. Bullfighting is one of the most abusive sports out there, along with animal hunting. This is pretty sad. If I were you, I wouldn't want to. If I was someone living in Spain, I'd never go to a bullfighting ring. Eventually, if everything fails, we have to do what the Soviets did to the prison camps in Nazi Germany to save the animals. Our end goal is equality for all, humans and animals alike. Animal abuse is pretty common in the meat industry, along with the fur industry, in which they use their greed. They breed animals to grow, get so fat, so they could have more skin. Yikes. Imagine if cattle were bred to be overweight for leather. It's gonna be just as abusive. That's the greed that goes on in the fur and meat and leather industry, in the animal skins trade. It's not just leather. Suede is a product of extreme cruelty too. This is about it for this video. Leave a like if you liked this video, dislike if you disliked it, subs if you loved it, bell icon to be notified for more. As always, thank you for watching and peace out.